but hopefully you can already see why this portion of this particular trail has such appeal. Displaying the glory of God's creation by visiting every state park, national park, and national forest in the contiguous 48 states. Welcome to Parking Full Time with Big Dave the Parker. This is McMahon's Mill. We are at the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal National Historical Park. Nice creek off here to the left by the Trailhead. That's the parking area right there. I do want to welcome you back to Parking Full Time. I am Big Dave, the parks professor. As I mentioned, we are at the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal National Historical Park. That's a mouthful. This park follows an old canal towpath that goes up along the Potomac River. Nice view of this side of the mill here. Today is Friday, September the 8th. And the temperature right now is a warm but humid 71 degrees. That is the Potomac River straight ahead there. Today we're going to hike downstream along the old canal towpath. We're going to hike down to Big Slackwater, as it's called. This is the towpath here. We're going to turn left in order to hike downstream. We are in western Maryland, by the way. We are about 80 miles northwest of Washington, D.C. And normally canal towpaths don't make for the greatest hiking. But this one's more interesting than usual, and I hope you'll see why in a few minutes here. We've only been going for a few minutes, but hopefully you can already see why this portion of this particular trail has such appeal. It's a concrete trail here right between, that is the Potomac River to the right, and some not super tall, but super steep rock cliffs off here to the left. Let me tell you a little bit about the history of this canal. So this canal is called the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal because originally it was intended to create a waterway, a man-made waterway, from the Chesapeake Bay to the east, all the way to the Ohio River to the west. And so to get that done, they routed the canal up the Potomac River, which is where we are right now. It would follow the Potomac River up to Cumberland, Maryland. And then at that point, it has to continue west-northwest over the Allegheny Mountains. This was the plan. Go west-northwest over the Allegheny Mountains to the Youghiogheny River, I believe it was. And then from there, down the Youghiogheny River and the Monongahela River to link up to the Ohio River in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That was the plan, and this plan was back in the early 1800s, early to mid 1800s, when water travel and waterways were the main and easiest way to travel in this part of the world. Well, that never really happened. The section that we're walking right now, this section of the canal towpath, and obviously this concrete isn't original to the canal towpath, but this section was built, but it never got past Cumberland, Maryland. And the reason for that are twofold. So number one, by the time this canal got to Cumberland, Maryland, the famous B&O Railroad, Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, was actually already there. So it was supplanted by the railroad. The other reason is cost. It turns out the cost to build this canal would be about 4 to 5 times larger than they were thinking at the time. And so for those two reasons, this section here along the Potomac got built, but it never went all the way to the Ohio. It never got past Cumberland, Maryland. That said, this section, the section here along the Potomac, got a little muddy area here, all right, not a problem. This section along the Potomac operated for nearly 100 years, a lot longer than most canals did. And mainly this canal was used to transport coal from the coal fields in West Virginia and Pennsylvania to the west, down to Washington, D.C., and also points on the eastern seaboard. So that's a little bit of the history of this canal towpath that we walk today. We have made it down to mile marker 86. We started at mile marker 88. And so therefore we're about 2 miles downstream here. There's also a yellow jacket's nest right behind that marker. I'm not sure if you can see the yellow jackets coming up and down out of the ground back there. We've crossed over about 10 of those concrete bridges that I showed you earlier. And there aren't any more on down the trail. That trail does keep going for another 86 miles all the way to Washington, D.C. But since there are no more concrete bridges, I figured that was a good spot to turn around there. Now we're going to head back upstream along the towpath. By the way, in this part of the canal trail, there actually isn't any canal right here. Along this part of the trail, they actually put the boats directly in the Potomac River. That's the Potomac River directly off to the left there. They would pull the boats along by mule while they were in the river. So we will head back upstream, back to McMahon's mill, and that'll finish the hike. We've made it back to the bridges, and therefore we have almost made it back to the trailhead at McMahon's mill. One thing I think I forgot to mention, the Potomac River is the state line in this part of the world. And therefore, when you look across the river, you are actually looking into West Virginia, even though we are currently, and this entire hike has been in Maryland. This has been a nice hike. Canal towpaths and bike paths in general don't make for the best hiking. But this one's been a lot better than average. Some really nice river views, as you can see here. Also some nice cliffs coming right down to the river. And so if you're going to go hiking on a bike path or a canal towpath, this is a really good one to do. I do want to thank you for watching. Parking full time would not be anything without the people who watch. I realize that every day, and I thank you every day. Also, as a reminder, I do not take any monetary compensation for anything that I do for this project. And therefore, the only thing that I get for doing any of this are your likes, your subscribes, your views, and your comments. And I do appreciate all of those things. So I'm going to close down this video now. Until next time, from the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal National Historical Park, I am Big Dave, the Parks Professor, for Parking Full Time. Have a great afternoon. Take care, and Lord bless.